Hi everyone, and welcome to Module 4. I was really pleased with your work on Module 3 and am busy doing the grading on that. I'm about one module behind. Everything's graded for Module 2, so you can check a look at your discussions and how that came out. Let's look at Module 4. As you know, it's online. Okay, so some of you have already had a look at this. Excellent. So I'm just going to kind of go through. So really what we're doing here is you are starting to look at a new meta function, and that's going to be something that you're going to learn in Section 3. And you're going to be doing some lesson planning so that you can start to really think about how the relationship between the language that you're studying and the teaching that you're doing. So it's a theory to practice week in several different ways. Okay, so the reading is the Teaching and Learning Context Chapter 6, and I'm noticing those of you that did the Have a Go assignments from that book are really getting a lot of material out of that book, so I encourage you to really dig into that. That is really the place where you're putting the theory about language to practice and seeing how that's done in different contexts. This here is from your green book that goes with your language investigations, which is all new material this week, and it's going to be challenging. So I really want you to dig into that, do all the exercises that are there, and then bring questions next week when you see me. Okay, and there's a video that goes with that as well. There's a quiz this week. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. This is the Section 3, and this is your lesson planning. So here is the materials for your language. They're deepening your language knowledge this week. I do urge you to watch this video as well, because nominalization is something that everyone has a really hard time with. And it's super important for academic language that you understand this. So dig into this, again, and bring questions next week. And we'll do some, like we did before, we'll do some activities, and we will also take questions. Okay, so that's Section 3. Okay, here is your lesson plan. And as I mentioned in class, this is done as a Jigsaw wiki. Here's what I mean. Okay, so there's 3 of you in this group. So one of you will be the lesson designer. One of you is going to design the assessment, and one of you is going to be the liaison to the ESL coordinator. This worked really well last semester because what I want you to get out of this is the thinking that goes behind the design and how that relates to the language that you're learning. So the lesson designer, and in this case it's Karis, gets to decide to design whatever lesson she wants, but it has to have an SFL framed focus, and it has to incorporate some kind of ESL strategy that you've been learning in your other courses. So what I mean by an SFL framed focus, you could do nominalization, which is from this week, or you could do something from the previous sections in the LIP. It's totally your choice. So, and in the LIP are a lot of, as you kind of know from looking through that, there's a lot of activities that could be made into lessons, and you don't have to invent the wheel. You can just take something that is created there for you and figure out how you would teach that to students. So that's where you're going to start, is looking. So it's got to be something from the LIP book. And again, this is just an example. Again, depending on your comfort level with this, you may want to do something from the previous section, like Section 2. Okay. Here's what I mean by strategy aimed at ESL learners. This is a reference to things that you've already studied. Most of you already have been going through this Pauline Gibbons book in other classes. I'm just looking for it here in my bookshelf, but it's not jumping out at me. So I think you've got that. Other things that you, again, know and understand about ESL teaching. So then, the assessment designer is going to, after the lesson designer is done and posts his or her lesson, the assessment person is going to come in and design a pre-assessment and a post-assessment for the lesson. And you're going to post that. Then lastly, we have the liaison to the ESL coordinator. So imagine that you're at a school and you have and you're you're not the ESL coordinator. I know some of you actually are. And you have to explain to the ESL coordinator what the language focus is. And again, so this is based on this lesson up here. So what the language focus is, why it's important and worth teaching, how it's going to help support ESL learners, and then you also need to look at the assessment and how that is going to be designed, and explain how that's designed to capture the learning process. It's also the opportunity to give critical feedback and make suggestions. So this person both has sort of an explanatory role as well as a critique. And then all of you need to keep going back and looking at what the other people have written, and you have an opportunity to make kind of respond as well. So looks like I need to put in a kind of a grid here for you, and I will do that. So what you're going to see here is some placeholders where the lesson's going to get posted, and it's just going to look like a table. So you've got a table that's going to have the lesson, and then the assessment, and then the ESL. Now, this is time critical, so let's go back to the module and see how that works in terms of the timing. Because we have to have time for, so the lesson plan post is due on Saturday night, which then gives the rest of the weekend for the assessment person to come in. And this needs to be done by Monday, because then the ESL liaison post is going to happen on Monday. So if you get things in earlier, that will help your group out. These are kind of your end deadlines. You feel free to coordinate with your group, and if for some reason you decide that you want to change roles within your group, that's up to you guys. You can change. I assigned pretty randomly, so I'm going to leave that up to you. Most groups, I'm sure, will probably just stay in the current roles. You can also help each other out with this. So if you want to make this more of a group activity, you can do that too. Now, one group has 4, and I've suggested in there kind of how you can divide the work up with that. So that's your time-sensitive thing this week. Then you also have this quiz, and this quiz is basically just a check to make sure you're working on the book, because again, the book is really critical to your learning the material. So I just want to make sure you're working on the book. I want to make sure you understand there's a key activity that I chose from section 2, and this one doesn't have an answer key. The answer key just says answers will vary. So this is the one I want you to work on, or you've already done this, so just post it. And if it's something that you did but you're not sure of, feel free to go back and rework it before posting it. On grading, this is an extra quiz. This is not on your initial grading schema, so it'll count as extra credit. Everyone does need to do it, but if it will count if you do well and you get everything, it'll count as an extra 5 points that you might need for whatever reason. So that's what's going on there. Okay, I think that is everything. I'm going to close out and get the rest of that wiki up there for you. And let me know if you have any questions, and I will be looking forward to, and I'll go in and give some feedback too, as you're going, and also at the end. Okay, all right, I will look forward to seeing your work.